in pursuing a net zero emission society, accelerating efforts to reduce emissions of hydrofluorocarbons, HFCs, and ozone-depleting substances, ODS emissions reduction is necessary. Particularly, recovery and destruction of used refrigerants from air conditioners and refrigerators as the end-of-life treatment is a crucial part of fluorocarbons life cycle management. Despite the importance of such action, stakeholders in many countries often hesitate to initiate the action because of one question: who is going to pay the recovery and destruction fee? Who can cover such cost? The answer to this big question may vary from country to country. However, one thing can be said is that without a thorough consideration of cost-bearing system, recovery and destruction program would not be sustainable. It is important to consider developing a necessary arrangement. For example, the government can introduce laws to define fluorocarbon users' responsibility for covering the cost, or business associations can create a system for collection and destruction of refrigerants associated with collection of fees. Like waste management procedure, polluter pays principle, PPP, is a standard norm for the refrigerant recovery and destruction, besides some innovative initiative to create financial incentive for end users. In this video, we are going to showcase some good practices and approaches that institutionalize the cost recovery system by defining obligation of refrigerant users or integrating payment procedure in refrigerant collection and destruction schemes. Refrigerant Reclaim Australia, RRA. Let us take a look at the good practice of the Refrigerant Reclaim Australia. Through its Refrigerant Reclaim program launched in 1993, the Refrigerant Reclaim Australia, RRA initiative provides contractors and refrigerant gas wholesalers with rebates on returned refrigerants, which covers the cost of recovering and destroying fluorocarbons. The wholesaler branch networks act as refrigerant collection points and also provide cylinder and decanting services and supervision. There are over 500 wholesaler branches in Australia capable of offering these services. The rebate acts as an incentive for contractors to collect and return used fluorocarbons. To reclaim refrigerant, a contractor can rent, purchase, or put a deposit on a cylinder from a wholesaler, and then return the full cylinder to the same wholesaler. The returned refrigerant is sent to RRA to be destroyed or refined for reuse. The rebate value is set by RRA. It is currently set at $3 Australian, approximately $2 per kilogram. According to the RRA, 6,700 tons of refrigerant were recovered between 2013 and 2017, reducing emissions by more than 10 million tons CO2 equivalent. Most of that recovered refrigerant was destroyed. Between 1993 and 2017, 91% of refrigerants were destroyed, 6% were recycled, 1% were stored, and 2% were returned to manufacturers for use as raw materials. Case of fluorocarbon recovery and destruction integrated with disposal and recycling used. Commercial and domestic RAC in Japan. Application of PPP. Let us take a look at examples of fluorocarbon recovery from commercial and domestic refrigerators and air conditioners and fair collection in Japan. Japan adopts polluter pays principle (PPP) for disposal and recycling used appliances. In other words, users of electronic products such as refrigerators, air conditioners, TV, and washing machines are responsible for paying the cost for their disposal after their use. The PPP also applies to the cost for recovering and destruction or reclamation of the refrigerants, and the collection of such costs are combined in one scheme. To enable to operate such scheme, Japan employs 3 laws related to fluorocarbon recovery. Here, we will introduce the regulations mandating refrigerant recovery and destruction or reclamation from commercial and domestic RAC, as well as the payment for the cost built in these regulations. First, disposing of domestic RAC, such as air conditioners, refrigerators, and freezers used as household appliances, is regulated under the Home Appliance Recycling Act. With the aim of reducing waste and promoting effective use of resources, the Act requires a recycling of useful components and materials from household appliances discarded from homes and workplaces. The Act provides the obligation of respective stakeholders. More concretely, when disposing, these 4 designated home appliances need to be collected by retailer and transferred to producers, and collected and recycled by the producers. Producers recycle those refrigerators and air conditioners. In doing so, the producers must recover, reuse, and destroy the refrigerant contained in these devices. Within this framework, used appliances are treated in the next row. Owners or disposers of such home appliances are obliged to purchase recycling tickets, stickers, and attach them to the appliances to be properly collected. Recycling tickets are issued by local governments and can be purchased at electronics stores and convenience stores. When collecting the appliances, the local government will check the stickers. It costs from approximately 1,000 to 5,000 yen, 7.5 to 35 US dollars, based on size of appliance. The income generated from sales is used to cover the recycle cost, including recovery and destroying, or reclaiming fluorocarbons. Fluorocarbons collected with used appliances are treated by licensed service suppliers with technical specifications. Cost recovery using market mechanism. Case of the joint crediting mechanism, JCM. Other than the regulation-based cost recovery arrangement for recovery and destruction of fluorocarbons, investment for recovery equipment and destruction facility needs to be considered. Market mechanisms can provide another venue for cost recovery. As a representative case, the case of the joint crediting mechanism, JCM, will be introduced. The JCM aims to facilitate diffusion of leading decarbonizing technologies and infrastructure, etc., through investment by Japanese entities, thereby contributing to GHG emission reductions or removals and sustainable development in partner countries. The JCM contribute to the achievement of both countries' NDCs by evaluating Japan's contributions in a quantitative manner and acquiring the part of credit. The Ministry of the Environment of Japan has funded 4 projects for HFCs recovery and destruction in Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines under the F-gas JCM program. The projects are supported to install destruction facilities and implement recovery activities. The amount of HFCs recovered and destroyed through this program will be counted against GHG's emission reduction in host countries and Japan. The JCM project, implemented in suburbs of Hanoi, Vietnam, introduced the incineration facilities dedicated for HFC destruction with financial support by the Ministry of the Environment of Japan. Through the project, a scheme is being established to integrate regulations and incentives for collecting and reduction of HFCs. The project is expected to realize 6,294 tons CO2 equivalent per year, which will be issued as carbon credits. These carbon credits will be shared by Japan and Vietnam. Besides, diverse entities actively currently work on developing incentive programs for fluorocarbon reduction. In the California Cap-and-Trade Program and the Western Climate Initiative, WCI, projects to reduce emissions of ODS such as R12, R11, R113, and R114. As described above, it is essential to consider how we should cover the costs for recovery and destruction of fluorocarbons, as well as transferring and storage of them. For the proper management, it is also important to engage those who have appropriate technique to handle them. To realize such system, relevant business association may design a system like a buyback program like the RRA, or governments may take action for legislation to introduce obligation of users or producers. Also, as an innovative way, a market mechanism can be adopted to incentivize emissions reduction for fluorocarbons emission. Reducing fluorocarbon emissions is an effective measure to mitigate climate change. In addition to the implementation of the Montreal Protocol, the recovery and destruction of used fluorocarbons have a significant effect in reducing the emission of fluorocarbons. It is unavoidable to discuss the expense in order to promote recovery and destruction. According to the situation of each country and region, it is desirable to select the most appropriate way in your country.